Hey friends, this is Natalie Irvan and welcome to the ICU podcast, where we explore how we can find significance in the unseen work of leaders and learn to be intentional to truly see others in our everyday lives. I can't wait to share with you, so let's get started. Today's scripture is Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Welcome back to the ICU podcast. Today I'm here with one of my closest friends, and I'm so excited for her to be able to share her story. This is something that is just the most incredible story of healing and redemption, and I'm really excited for you to hear it. So I just want to welcome Kalen Rogers. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I feel like we're just going to talk like we normally do, but I'm excited that other people get to be let in on our conversations, and we've had so many powerful ones over the past year especially, and we'll get to that and get to kind of what has all transpired over the past year in such a short amount of time. It's kind of hard to believe that, you know, now we're in 2026 and we want to kiss 2025 goodbye. Maybe not kiss affectionately because it was really difficult for you, and we will get to that. But for people who don't know who you are, just go ahead and share who you are and what you do.
Yes. My name is Kalen Rogers. I've been married for, I had to calculate this earlier and I already forgot, almost 13 years to my husband, Sam. And we have two girls, Adley and Nina. They're 11 and 7. And then I work in town as a pediatric PA. And I really love what I do.
Yeah, we love that you love what you do because we always need you. So tell us a little bit about where you're from, because ironically we are from the same place and never really crossed paths, but our parents, you know, still live in the same area.
Yes. So we're, both from north of Atlanta. And I always just kind of say like Marietta, Kennesaw, Powder Springs. It's all kind of like lumped together.
Yep.
But yeah, you actually graduated from the same high school as my sister, which I didn't go to the same high school as my sister, which is kind of weird. But my parents just moved a lot in the same area. But when we connected those dots and you like vaguely knew each other, it was just really funny. Yeah.
I know. I love it. So then after you graduated high school, you went to UGA,
yes.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, I went to UGA, and initially I was actually I wanted to be a high school math teacher.
Oh.
I really enjoyed like the math part, and then as like sophomore year came into more of the education classes, I was like, don't think this is for me.
Your path.
No. So, you know, I'd always kind of wanted to go into the medical field, but I felt like you could either be like a nurse or a doctor, and both of those are great options. I just didn't feel like either one of those like fit kind of what I wanted to do. So that was why I ended up wanting to be a math teacher, because I was like, well, I can't go into healthcare because I don't know how to do that. So, so I ended up switching and deciding to apply to nursing school. And when I was applying, we had to get like some shadowing hours, and I was shadowing a doctor in Atlanta. And he was like, well, have you ever thought about being a PA? And I'm like, well, what is that? So, you know, I ended up looking into it more and was like, that seems like a really awesome fit. So shifted again and finished out at UGA, graduated with a degree in biological science. Funny enough, in the agriculture school, but that was how I could avoid taking OChem too.
Yeah,
because
anything to avoid. Or what is it? Organic chemistry.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know that. I can't even wrap my brain around that. So
I did not understand that at all. But yeah. So I graduated from there, and then that was in 2009. So in 2010, I started PA school at South in Savannah. And that's how I kind of ended up down here. I never thought I would live in South Georgia or in a small town or any of the things, but
we're definitely the same in that regard, that we can't believe we're here.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're like, why are we here?
Why am I here?
But then there's so many good things.
Yep.
So
I love it. I don't miss the traffic at all. No.
And now when we go back, we're like, oh, no, this makes sense why we decided to come here.
Why I did not want to go back up there.
Yeah. So after how did you choose peds?
Well, I feel like I've always kind of been drawn to just like working with children. I just they're fun and they're precious. And I've worked as like a nanny and a babysitter kind of throughout the years. So during when we kind of picked our rotations, I was able to pick where we had to do like general pediatrics, but then like my surgery rotation was a pediatric surgery. And then my elective was pediatrics. And I just fell in love with it. I just love getting to watch kids grow up and take care of them. And that's what I've done since I graduated.
Yeah, I feel like it's such a God-given talent. A lot of people who go into the medical field stay away from that. It almost like scares them a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is funny because there's a lot of things about the medical field that I feel like would be scary, and kids maybe are the least scary in my opinion, but like with you do have to have a special personality to be able to reach kids and be able to treat kids like you do. So I think that's really very special, and we're very grateful that God called you to do that. So how did you meet Sam?
So we met at a friend's wedding. It was one of my good friends from college and one of his friends from high school. We met at their wedding, and I feel like we knew pretty quickly that, not like, oh, true love at first sight, but we're like, wow, we really like just get along and see eye to eye, and our personalities really meshed well, and like we knew pretty quickly that
it was
we would end up getting married.
So you got married. You stayed in Statesboro at that point, or were y'all in Savannah?
Yes. So he was living in Statesboro initially, and then I was still in Atlanta doing rotations.
Okay.
And then I ended up starting some rotations down here in Savannah and like Rincon area. And then we trying to think the timeline.
Yeah.
Then
it's a long time ago.
Yes. We got engaged, and then I started working, and then we got married in 2013.
Okay. So. And then settled here.
And then just, settled here.
And funny enough, Sam is a teacher. So
yes, and a math teacher at
so
that.
So you didn't become a math teacher, but you married one.
I married a math teacher. So
it all kind of worked out.
Yeah.
And I feel like you guys, your personalities do complement each other so much. So it is really cool to just see y'all together as a couple. I feel like y'all are better together.
Yes, we do. Yeah, really definitely balance each other out. We're different in a lot of ways, but also similar in others.
Yeah. So tell me about your experience with church and just kind of how you became a Christian, because the way that we met was through church and the doctor's office as well, because we're frequent flyers at the doctor's office. But through church is where we really built our relationship. So tell me about your experience in past as a churchgoer, and then kind of how you became a Christian.
Yes. So I did not grow up in the church. I'd go to like VBS or church with like a friend here and there, but really did not even come to like know who Jesus was at all until high school. Yeah. So I accepted Jesus when I was in 9th grade with my friend Brittany. And, initially I feel like when you become a Christian, and especially when you're younger, I don't think you fully kind of understand what it's supposed to kind of look like. And to me at the time, it felt like a bunch of things that like you need to do this and you don't need to do this.
Just a list of rules that you need to follow.
Rules, very felt like transactional, to no one's fault. That was just my understanding of things. So, I definitely then just drifted away and, made some choices that, led to a point where I did kind of struggle a good bit with anxiety and depression. And, when I went away to college, my fall semester of freshman year, I had a really hard time. I wanted to leave. I didn't want to stay there. I just wasn't in a very good place. And I remember calling my mom and I was like, I just think I need to come home. I don't think I can do this. And she encouraged me to stay. And that spring of my freshman year, I ended up getting involved in college ministry and met a lot of amazing, wonderful people that I'm still friends with today. And then I ended up getting baptized when I was 19, so that spring.
Wow.
Funny enough, at the church that your parents, I think, still go to.
Yeah.
So, I feel like it's just interesting. I'm not making sense.
Yeah. Like that's when it became real for you. Like
Yeah.
maybe at one point you had recognized your need for salvation, but
Yes.
it didn't really click until you got to the point where you're finally involved in church. You're seeing, that it's worth being there, and maybe your understanding wasn't completely full at the point of salvation.
Yeah. I think understanding it's more of a relationship, and
Sure.
it's more of a continual process
Yeah.
of like building and
sanctification.
growing and and sanctification. Yes.
Absolutely. So when you came to Statesboro, were you involved in a church? Were you kind of in between? Like after you left Athens, how did that affect your relationship with the Lord?
Because I had a wonderful church in Athens that I went to and was very involved in. And then when I went away to PA school, I kind of would watch online and read my Bible and listen to music, but I didn't really have like a church,
a community.
Like home. Yeah. And that really wasn't until me and Sam got married.
Yeah.
We ended up finding like a church home and stayed there for several years, and then ended up here.
And what would you say? I think a lot of people are okay with just being at home, watching online, reading their Bible, doing whatever it is that they want to do independently in a relationship with the Lord, but what's lacking is that community and the church. And how do you feel like that impacted your relationship with the Lord? Like, what did you find when you started going to church versus when you were just trying to kind of do it on your own and didn't have that community behind you?
Yes, as like a very hyper-independent person who thinks they can do everything themselves, you feel like that should be enough. That like, yes, I'm checking this, list off. I'm doing these things. I'm in a relationship with Jesus. But at the same time, when things are going well, that's usually when those things are fine.
Yeah, right.
But ultimately, a difficult season will pop up, and if you don't have that surrounding of community and being surrounded by other believers, it's very easy to get lost. Absolutely. And just really taken under by the world and circumstances that you're in, and then so you end up not reading your Bible or going or watching online or listening to music, and no one's holding you accountable or helping to lift you up and
absolutely
keep you going.
The accountability is not there, and the community is not there. And I feel like one thing that we found together as a relationship as friends, but then also in a connect group, is that there is so much value in encouraging one another, lifting each other up, holding each other accountable, but in a way that is what John would say, high grace and high truth, right? Like we are walking alongside each other. We know that we're not going to be perfect. We know things are going to happen, but yet when those things do ultimately happen, because they will, you have support and you have a whole body of believers behind you. So I think, one of the things that is really special about your story is that suffering does happen. And Jesus even says in the Bible that we will suffer. It's not a matter of will we, it's when. When will that happen? And unfortunately, life isn't fair. And, we live in this tension of we're broken and we're in the waiting period of Jesus returning and restoring everything and making everything right again. And so in this season of life that we're in, the brokenness and the sinfulness of the world leads to a lot of suffering. And, a lot of people question that about God. A lot of people question, well, why does God allow us to go through those things? If he's all knowing and he's omnipresent and he's this, that, and the other, like, why would a good God allow that? And unfortunately, it's because the world is broken and sin has entered the world, and humans, back all the way back to the Old Testament, humans thought they could do it on their own. They thought that they could, be their own king, be their own God. And yet, so now we have free will. And so what's around us is chaos. And, all of that to say, suffering did enter your story probably more than once, but specifically within this past year. And so one of the things I really wanted you to share this, because I think even though people may not be able to relate to the exact same scenario that we're going to talk about, they will be able to relate to a lot of the feelings that you felt as you were walking through it. So can you take us to Christmas of last year? So
2024.
Yes.
Gosh. Yes. So Christmas morning, we were all sitting down to eat. It was just my girls and Sam. We were sitting down to eat breakfast after we opened presents. And you want me to sorry.
Yeah. You can just describe. Yeah.
Okay. So this was recounted to me later because I don't remember these events. But when we were sitting down to eat, Sam said I had kind of stared off and just looked like I just didn't feel good or something was wrong. So he had the girls step out, and then I ended up having a seizure. And he called 911, and the ambulance came, and the fire trucks, and all of the people. And then, I rode to the ambulance and rode in the ambulance to the ER, where I had some scans done to figure out, what happened.
Because this was not normal.
This was not normal.
You don't have epilepsy. There's no reason that you should have had a seizure.
No, this was very unexpected. And so they ended up finding a spot in my brain that had bled. Initially weren't really sure what it was. It was just, hey, there's this spot that's in your frontal lobe. It's bled. We need to figure out what's going on. So I was transferred to Augusta and did some more scans and different things. Initially kind of looking, was this, cancer coming from somewhere else, or were there other spots, other places? So initially I was sent home, and they were like, okay, you're going to follow up with a neurosurgeon and they'll figure that out. So that was the original kind of what happened.
Right. Which was scary.
I
mean, when you got sent home, I know that my response was, wait, what? They're sending you home? What do you mean they're sending you home?
Here's some medicine, which is, I was stable. I was fine to go home, but there weren't really answers. We didn't, at that point, didn't know.
How did you feel when you woke up and were told what had happened? When you were coherent enough to understand what was going on and they told you what had happened?
I feel like definitely that 24 hours after was pretty blurry. I remember bits and pieces of it, but I just think with the magnitude of the seizure and what I do think it just affected my mental abilities that day. So I think it wasn't until I got home that I felt like I could kind of wrap my head around. And normally I feel like my brain is to go into all the what if scenarios. Yeah. And for some reason I did to an extent, but at the same time, I just was like, well, I'm going to follow up with my appointments and we're going to figure out what this is and we're going to go from there because that's all I can do right now.
Yeah. Which is very interesting because, like you said, that's not normally your response to things. So I feel like there had to be some type of peace that you felt that was more supernatural than what you would normally have in that type of situation. And I can tell you from the outside, because I was kind of witnessing this as it was happening. I didn't witness the seizure, but Sam had called me as soon as it happened and was very frantic and came and got the girls. And I just remember everything was just very out of sorts. It just felt wrong. It felt like, God, why on Christmas morning? Why did this happen to her? Why, because nothing made sense. And I think that's the thing with, seizures or any type of cancer. I mean, any really big life-altering medical situation that happens, you're like, this is so unnatural. This does not feel right. Mm-hmm. So then everything around you almost feels the effects of that. Like, and especially with seizures, mm-hmm. it's not just you really that goes through that process. It's your whole family. So now your whole family has to come to terms with what they saw, what they, what is the future going to look like?
Yes.
Explain to me how that affected your family, specifically Sam.
I think initially, he was in the mode of, okay, I've got to tell these people this is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. He was in charge. I really was not able to do a whole lot, mm-hmm. After the seizure, and kind of for a few weeks. So I feel like was kind of in the mode of like, I'm taking charge. I'm getting all these things, right. Getting these things done. Yeah. And then I think he, got to a point where then he could kind of like take in what it was and what happened. Yeah. And
I just remember him saying that, because obviously Harper deals with seizures. And so I think it was kind of a level where it wasn't something we wanted to relate in, but we did.
Yeah.
But, I think that he was just saying like, every time that he looked at you, if anything looked off, it scared him. It was it was a trigger for him because he's like, there's so much unknown. And at that time, you hadn't had surgery. You hadn't, there were no answers. So it was like, okay, is this going to happen again? How many times is this going to happen? What is our life going to look like? Because within a period of 24 hours, a lot was taken from you. A lot was taken from your family in those moments of the security of what had been. Right. And so now we're thrust into this unknown, new normal, which was very weird for someone as independent as you. Mm-hmm. So explain the things that now you couldn't do because of the seizure specifically.
I felt like kind of all the things that I often would find value in, like being a mom, being a wife, like being a PA. All of those were taken from me. I was in a good bit of pain afterwards. My head hurt. I felt pretty dizzy. I just felt very tired. So I couldn't work. That was one thing that was difficult. But then doing things around the house, doing laundry, helping with the girls, I really couldn't do much. And I've asked the other day, I can't remember, it was Adley or Nina, one of them mentioned, like, I remember, after you just kind of like laid on the couch a lot and you would sleep. And that just like broke my heart that they had to see me like that. And that was not anything I could control, but it's hard when all that gets taken away. I couldn't drive. If you have a seizure, you can't drive unless you've been seizure-free for 6 months. They don't let you do that, which is understandable and very safe for a reason. Right.
But at the same time, a huge thing to take away.
At my house.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Yeah. And I think, even having to feel like you're being monitored and watched all the time, was another thing. It's like all the privacy that you had could no longer be the case just because people were worried about you and people wanted to make sure that you were okay. And so one thing that was interesting to me was just the process of watching you be able to accept help. Because because you're also, really before, you're very private, like in a sense, it's not like you air everything out on social media. It's not like you really share a whole lot to a lot of people. And so being able to be at a place where you accepted help was really hard, I think, for you. Would you agree with that?
I do. I felt like initially, it felt like I failed or something. I couldn't do all these different things. Right. But golly, I don't know what we would have done if we didn't have all that help. One thing, my sister came down and helped with the girls and helped with things at different times. And the one thing that she kept saying, she was like, I have never seen a community come around someone as much as they did you. Just in so many different ways, whether it was, meals or, coming to sit with me or taking the girls to a movie. and praying for me, and
Yeah.
it people just kept showing up, and people that I wouldn't have expected to, and people that I wasn't even maybe that close with, but they knew what had happened and wanted to help.
Yeah. It's very special. It was special to watch. It was incredible to watch. Like, I just remember when we set up the meal train, there was like a thing on the meal train where you could also have financial donations, and that was like a new setting that I didn't even realize was there, but you were out of work and couldn't go to work. And obviously that adds a financial strain. And I know that your boss was amazing in that as well, and very generous and kind. However, the medical bills pile up, and that's just a reality of the situation. And I just remember, like, you know what, I'll leave that on there and we'll just kind of see what happens. And it was like, people just blew it out of the water.
It was,
they just blew it out of the water.
It would just keep popping up, and I wanted to write a thank you note to every single person. I physically couldn't because it was just hard to do things. But golly, God just showed up and said,
"Got this.
I know you need help, and here you go."
Yeah. And I think that speaks so much to community.
Yes.
And the importance of godly community, who not only, I don't think it's even like what you were saying about, well, I know you've said this to me in the past of like, I don't want to be a burden to somebody. But one of the things that I think I've told you was like, it's not a burden, it's a privilege. Like you're giving somebody the opportunity. And if you don't, you're almost robbing them of the blessing to be there for you because they want to. Like, I wanted to be next to you all the time. I'm like, I can't leave Kaylin. I don't want to leave Kaylin. It's just because you were so important to me in so many ways. And your life was important to me. Your health was important to me. And I think so many people felt that and felt the desire to just do anything they possibly could to make things easier, even a little. Because, like, obviously we couldn't fix it. And I think when you can't fix it, you feel powerless. And, talk about, like, the feeling of letting go of control. Because I know that is difficult for a lot of people. Like, you really had to give up control of every circumstance, right? The future.
Yes. Yeah, the future of what was this thing, what were we going to do about it? That was definitely all completely out of my control. And I think letting go of that, I feel like in this part was like a little maybe easier than other times. I didn't want to be in control of this because it felt like too big. It's probably great that I'm not in control of what all's going to happen here.
Yeah. That's interesting, though, I think, because I think a lot of people would still try to grasp at straws of, like the little things that they can control. And I think that just speaks to how big God is, that when there are situations like that, he's the only one that can be in control. He's the only one that can fix it. Like, so it's almost like you've got to hand it over.
I think that was it, where I physically was like, there's nothing.
Do.
I remember my sister told me one time, just, talking through everything. One thing that she said, and that will always stick with me, is that she said, God is not surprised by any of this. And that just, I still like repeat that for just random things that happen now, is that
for sure.
He's already seen this through.
Yep.
He's not surprised that this happened to me. I'm surprised. Everyone else is surprised. But he's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot of peace in that.
So much peace that he's seen it. He's already been through it and will see you through it. Will walk you through it. And he did. Yes. One of the things that, and we'll kind of get to that process of the surgery and everything. One of the things that Harper told me when she was, she was probably 3 years old. And, we worried excessively over her seizures, and to the point where I had trouble letting go of control. And so I think I see you letting go of that. And that's a big thing for me. That speaks volumes to me because I still, even in, 9 years of dealing with it, still grasp at straws where I can. Like, I have such a hard time letting go. But one of the things that she said to me, and God just speaks through our kids, I guess, in the craziest ways. But
yes,
I was really worried about her. She had on her cooling vest, and we were going outside. And I'm like, just let me know if you get too hot. You got to let me know. You got to tell mommy if you're too hot. Just obsessive over everything. And she said, Mommy, God made my brain. He knows how to work it. And that just stopped me in my tracks. And I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. Because that was God telling me, would you just settle down? Like, I created this intricate, mysterious, beautiful thing in her body, and I know how to do it. You don't have to figure it out, and you don't get to control it. And that just if I can remember that in the moment, then it helps me. But,
yes, and sometimes we can, and sometimes
sometimes it's hard. But, okay, so we got to the point where after lots and lots and lots of doctor's visits, we get to where we know it's inevitable that you're going to have surgery.
Yes. So yes, it ended up being what's called a cavernoma, which is, a little just cluster of vessels that didn't quite form right, that you're kind of like born with, and they either can bleed and cause a problem, or they cannot, and they can kind of be anywhere, in your brain. But if they do bleed, it's just kind of the blood kind of slowly comes out, and in your head and your brain, there's only so much room for blood and swelling to be.
Right.
So depending on where that is, that can cause a problem. So they said that because of the swelling around it and the fact that it ended up causing another seizure, it needed to come out.
Yeah.
So I was scheduled for surgery on February 3rd of 2025. Yes. So we're coming up on a year of that.
Yeah.
And, initially, and some people know this, but, initially when I saw that date of February 3rd, 2 years prior, we had lost Sam's mom pretty suddenly and quickly. And she went into the hospital on February 3rd. In Augusta. It was a different hospital, but it was still in Augusta.
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw that date, I was scared because I was worried when I went in I wasn't going to come out because she went in on February 3rd and then she passed away on February 5th. Yeah. So I remember just kind of praying and just kind of talking to God and just saying, I'm worried about this.
Right.
And I felt, his presence, and I felt him tell me that, your story is going to be different. You're going to walk out of that hospital. And I believed him. And then I did. I got to walk out with a half-shaved head and, 40 staples in my head. But I did. I got to walk out. And I think from that moment when, when I felt his presence and him tell me that, I already felt a general peace about things because that's just how it kind of was. Yeah. But from there on, the peace that I felt from everything, I believed what he said. Because he's shown up for me many, many times before. And this is just another way where I can show that God is faithful and that he does what he says he's going to do. And if he says you're going to walk out of the hospital, you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about the song Firm Foundation.
Yeah, so that was another thing my sister had sent. She had just been kind of listening to that song on repeat. So we did the same thing. And, there are a few times, where I would start to feel anxious about things and I couldn't kind of even get my mind to kind of quiet down. And so I would just start repeating the lyrics, over and over in my head. And I think so many of the different parts of that song, I'm gonna get it. I do remember the lyrics. If I don't look it up, then sometimes I forget.
Yeah.
So a few different parts I feel like really stuck out to me. But saying, Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand. When everything around me is shaken, which definitely felt like it in that moment. Yeah. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, because he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations, so why would he fail now? He won't. And the part I would sing over and over again is, so why would he fail now? He won't. He won't fail now, because he is faithful through generations.
Yeah.
And has been faithful to me and has shown that. So that became kind of our little mantra of we would play it all the time when we were writing or listening, or waiting for, whatever. But
yeah, that's such a good song. I love it. So after the surgery, obviously the healing process takes time. And so explain kind of like I guess how you are now, just from the time of really starting to recover, where are you at now and how are you doing?
Yeah, the initial recovery period, and no one can really tell you what it's going to be like.
Right.
They're like, yes, you can expect to, feel these symptoms. How long you will feel that way, it's just hard to know, because the brain is healing. And, it's a little easier to, if you, break your arm or something, you can rest your arm. You can put it, in a cast, in a sling, and it's rested. With your brain, it's hard. You can't really rest it as easy. So, I think after the initial healing, and I felt more like myself, I felt like kind of the fog of everything had been kind of lifted. I felt like I should just kind of be back to normal, that I should be able to do everything that I've done before. I should be able to, work my same exact hours, be able to keep up with everything at home, take the girls, do all the things. And that was not the reality of it. And it's still not. And it's still hard. It's definitely easier, and I don't get as tired and run down as I did before, but it's still a process. I don't feel like I'm back to where I was before surgery, and I don't know if I will be again. But I think there's ways that you do get used to your new normal, and you set boundaries, and you figure out, how do we make this work?
Yeah. What do you feel like you want people to take away from you sharing your story?
I feel like in general, when we do have, these times where we are suffering and it's difficult, there's still a lot that you learn in the process, that you learn about God, that you learn about yourself and, your community. There's a book called Treasures in the Dark that I love. And she, has a similar story in that, what Catherine Wolfe, author, had been through was, she had a very traumatic bleed in her brain. It was different, and she definitely faces different challenges. But there was, I'm going to pull this up on my Kindle on the phone. But just talking about darkness and suffering, how we can look at it and kind of shape it differently. And one of this part really stuck with me, but she had said, the darkest days of my suffering had taught me things that a pain-free life never could have. In the darkness, I experienced peace that transcended my circumstances. I rediscovered my worth apart from my ability. I gave up the illusion that I was in control of much of anything. None of that could have happened in a life exclusively in the light of favorable circumstances. When I redefined the darkness as the place in which God's light can shine most brightly, I didn't have to be so afraid of suffering and sorrow anymore. And then she goes on to say, there's a time to hurt and there's a time to heal. And then I promise you there will be a time to hope.
That's beautiful.
And I felt like, golly, she just summed that up
Perfectly.
really, really well. And that even though, things were difficult, to look and see again how just the community, came around us, and the peace I experienced through that can only be attributed to God.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I hope people will be very encouraged, not only just because your story is incredible, it's a miracle that we're sitting here, and for so many reasons, but that people will be encouraged of why church community is so important, why it's important to be part of a local body of believers that preach the gospel, but then also how we can hope in the darkness, because we do have a promise of, God's faithfulness, and that even when we're struggling in the moment, like, we can look back and truly see how many times God has shown up. Yes. So again, with firm foundation, why would he fail now? Why would he, if he's shown up all these times, and even not just in our own lives, but throughout history, if you see how many times he shows up for his people, even though they don't deserve it, even though they're disobedient, even though they're sinful, even though they grumble and complain, he still shows up, because that's who he is. And I hope that they see evidence of that in your life. I hope that, I know that God's going to use your story and God's going to use your circumstances to bring people to know him. And I think that's ultimately what you desire. And, you've told me, like, just that people will be able to see God so clearly in the situation that you've gone through. And I think your light shines and shows people that. So thank you for sharing with us.
No, I hope that it does.
And even though I know some of these answers, I'm still doing my fangirl 5. Okay, so, here we go. Now keep it PG. We got to know your favorite book. That's question number 1.
Yes, so I do. I love to read. I got back into reading probably, I think, like 2 years ago. I grew up, I loved, like, Harry Potter and Hunger Games and Divergent and all of that. So I read mostly, like, fantasy and romantic fantasy books. But my favorite series is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas.
Yeah.
I love it so, so much. It is a long series, but it's very worth it. A lot of it is about, obviously, it's set in a fictional fantasy world. But the character growth, and there is a lot of suffering in a lot of these books that I read, funny enough. And you really can, you just see their characters grow and overcome. And I love it.
You love it.
I love it so much. I have stickers on my laptop.
And we joke about Kaylin's all of her gadgets to support her Kindle, because you can't just, like, be in the bed and take your hands out of the covers.
No.
You need to have a clicker. You need to have a stand. And you need to have lights. And it's just, it makes me laugh.
It is this situation.
I love it.
My children give me a hard time about it, but I love my Kindle.
Whatever makes you happy, Okay, so craziest medical thing you saw during PA school?
I feel like a lot of the crazy things are maybe not, like, the happiest things. There's definitely some moments that I was like, whew, this is really difficult.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with one of, like, my favorite things was seeing a child be born and helping deliver a baby. That is just amazing. Yeah. And I would cry every time.
It's so special.
I did not know these people, but that's my favorite. I think I also just think it's crazy how all that happens.
It is crazy.
Quite impressive.
It is very impressive. Women are amazing. We're just amazing. Sorry. If you could travel anywhere, where would you go?
I would love to go back to, so Sam and I got married in St. Lucia. We did a destination wedding. I did not want to have a wedding. So, my parents weren't thrilled about that. But it really fits our personalities, and that we wanted it just to be us, and it was just
private,
us.
Yeah.
So I would really like to go back to St. Lucia where we got married.
Yeah.
when we were babies then and now a lot older, I would like to just experience that again. And
That'd be really special. Yeah. Y'all should. You've been through a lot. I think that's the next step.
Yeah, so we,
you need a trip.
Kept planning, like, we want to do a trip, and then stuff would come up, and,
Yeah.
We'll make it happen.
It's going to happen.
15 years.
I want to go.
You can come. We're not getting married this time. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, so if you weren't a PA, but you could have any job regardless of pay, what would it be?
This is probably super niche, but I would really like to be like a book curator. Ooh. Where I'd probably have to, broaden what I read a little bit. But when my friends ask for like a book recommendation, I have definitely made like a spreadsheet with like, this is the book, this is kind of the premise.
You haven't, for real?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
So
you need to be on shelf respect.
I do. I would love that.
Yeah.
So if I could be like a book curator and have like a traveling, like beautiful RV with books and like with beautiful like sprayed edges and something like that.
What a dream.
That would be dreamy.
I always wanted to open up a bookstore, like a kids bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
Like we used to have in downtown Marietta, we used to have the, what's it called? The Pickle Patch.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad used to take me to the bookstore and you'd walk in and it was like the shop around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was just dreamy. And I'm sure for kids, like, it probably seemed more dreamy to me at that age than it actually was.
Now,
but
like, wow, this is really dingy.
But they would have like story time and they would have stuff for the grown-ups to do. And I always wanted to like open up a bookstore. But maybe we could open a shop around the corner and you could be the book curator. And I don't know what I would do. I'm not really.
Sign me up.
Not really good at anything, but I'll just be there.
You could be there.
I'll be the cashier person.
There you go.
I don't know. Okay. Speaking of podcasts, what is your favorite podcast recommendation?
It's definitely my favorite podcast. Is the podcast with Knox and Jamie. I've been a long-time listener. I support their small business on Patreon.
Yes, you do.
So I pay monthly to get extra content. But it's it's a little unhinged and silly, and they do talk about a lot of pop culture things, and they recap movies, but it's just fun, and it's I look forward to it every like Monday, Wednesday.
Yeah, me too.
Because again, I pay for the extra.
Yes, we're both benefits, and so shout out Jamie and Knox. Please come on the podcast. That would be so awesome. Maybe I would take off if you did that. But
no, maybe you never know. I'll tag Jamie in it. We'll see.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so we do share a love for the podcast, and Kaylin introduced me to it. So I'm forever grateful for that because it does bring me a lot of joy. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just need like something light.
Yes,
to bring you some joy in the midst of the murder podcast that I fall asleep to. It's fine. That's another story for another time.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been lovely. I love you, and I'm thankful for our friendship. I'm thankful for your story, and that you just are willing to share it. So I hope people can just see the Lord through your life and everything that you will continue to do. So, all right, that's another episode of the ICU podcast. We'll see you next time.